Hare Krishna. Alright, so we're going to continue on with the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 1, and then maybe start on text 2 because we kind of left off midway through the purport. So the last part we were reading was, a man fallen in the ocean of nations cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. So we already discussed the ocean of nations, how you can't save someone by helping their body per se, their mind, their material situation, giving them more money, more food, more drugs, like anything that you do that is materialistic and focused more on the bodily comforts of life, that will not help you. The gross material body is not the means to pull someone out of their suffering. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Shudra. So we have 4 different classes of people based on their qualities. Now, this is not based on birthright, as a lot of people say, I am born Brahmin, I am born this. You can be born those things and not necessarily have the qualities of that particular person or caste per se. So it's said that anyone can level themselves up into these particular different varnas. And the varnas are Shudras, the lowest. Usually in the varnashram system, the Shudras are working class. Their minds are less controlled. They're not very God conscious, if at all. And they're not good with their money. So generally, they're protected, taken care of, given everything that they need, but they're not allowed to freely make money and do with it as they please, because they will become drunkards, they'll take intoxication, they'll use prostitutes, they'll gamble, they'll spend their money in so many different ways and not really know what to do with it, as we see in the material world. Most of us are born Shudra or even lower than that, and most of the world is built to cater to these particular proclivities as well. We have brothels, we have bars, we have strip clubs, we have gambling places, we have Las Vegas, we have all of these things that actually are all Shudra activities, including the entertainment business, generally acting, singing. These are also generally kind of Shudra activities as well, and yet we worship them and provide them more money than most people on the planet. So things are a little bit reverse right now. The people that are worshipped in the society are generally of the Shudra class. So here, Krishna is kind of making fun of Arjuna and saying, only a Shudra would act like this, calling him a Shudra. Why are you unnecessarily lamenting for your parents and your siblings' bodies that we're asking you to destroy when they are not the body? What is the use of this lamentation? Arjuna, it says, was a Kshatriya. So we have Shudra, then we have Vaishya. Vaishya is more like mercantile class. They do a lot of the trading, creating and making things, specifically cow protection, producing ghee, yogurt, milk, butter, these types of things. They are more God conscious, of course, and they associate with Mother Cow. Then we have the Kshatriyas. They're the rulers, fighters. They are specifically trained in, overseeing and organizing societal matters, and generally are kings and used in battle and wars, and are quite a God-conscious, high Varna to be in. And then the top class is the Brahmins, which mostly are in pure goodness, or at least in the mode of goodness, if not pure God consciousness. And they are the ones that are doing a lot of meditation and yagyas and worshiping the deities and studying the Vedanta. And offering their food and making prasadam, and have come up to a Brahminical level. They're quite clean in their activities, whereas Kshatriya is a little less clean. There's still a lot of them, previously would be eating meat and different things. So those are the four Varnas. And Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and as a Kshatriya, there's a certain conduct that is asked of him. So this conduct was not expected from him. He is a warrior. He's God conscious. He understands his varna and his position and how he's meant to act. And yet he is lamenting as if he's a low-class Shudra here, worrying about material designations and bodies of people that he knows are not necessarily related to him per se. They're not his family. They're all jivas, and they're all eternal parts and parcels of Krishna. So Krishna is calling him a Shudra, saying, look, you are a Kshatriya, and thinking like this and acting like this is not expected from someone of your stature, someone in this particular varna of a Kshatriya. And it says, Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man. So he's calling Arjuna ignorant and saying that he, as Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will be through the Bhagavad Gita here, able to dissipate his lamentation, where he is acting just like an ignorant person, acting like a Shudra, and lamenting for, this material dress that he's associating with here. And it says the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita was sung by Krishna. So the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to actually instruct everyone for this particular age. And this circumstance was created by Krishna, and Arjuna is acting in this particular way. So we can see what a materialistic man would do in this circumstance, and then Krishna provides all of the information required so that in any circumstance that you're in, you're able to see the material world for what it is and use all of this as, fuel for your intelligence to combat the mind and the senses and to try to understand things for what they really are and get out of Maya or illusion and not see everything as senseless kind of material objects and bodies. It also says the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him, so the Bhagavad Gita is written in Sanskrit, and it does have a meter and a particular rag that it can be sung in. And Sanskrit is generally sung and not spoken, but does have a sing-song meter and pattern as the most advanced language as well that we know of, and many people study it, and it has so many different words for the word love, smiling, love with tears, love with this, love with that. So they categorize everything in multiple different ways, whereas we just have one word, love. They have all these different types, love with your hair standing on end, all of these different symptoms. So Sanskrit is much more useful, actually, in speaking and communicating, because you have a larger spectrum of communication words that you can use. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority, Lord Sri Krishna. So it's saying that this chapter here, Contents of the Gita Summarized, basically gives us the main building blocks of self-realization and an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul. So it really analyzes what is what, who is in the body, what is in the body, what is a jiva, what is a paramatma, what is the material body itself, what is intelligence, what is the mind, and how are the senses and the material modes all working to create this environment that we're in, even though we ourselves are not the environment, we are not the body, and we are interacting with lower material energies that are coming from Krishna but are not necessarily the true energy that we are able to experience in the spiritual realm. So this will give us a lot of the information and help us to understand at least what the basis of self-realization even means, because what are we self-realizing? We're realizing that we are not the body, we are spirit soul. This realization is made possible by working with the fruitive being situated in the fixed conception of the real self. So what does this mean? So this realization that I am not the body is made possible by working with the fruitive being. The fruitive being means us, means the human people that are identifying with the body. And fruitive workers means that we work for fruit. So we think that karma works in such that we can put in the amount of work and get the exact result back that we're looking for. So if we put effort in, we will get this. So we're working for the fruits of our labor. We go to work, we get money, we make food, we get something palatable, we eat it. The thing is, though, is life doesn't actually work like that. There's a lot of people that put in immense amount of work and are highly skilled in things, but they get no fruits back. Just like they say, there's millions of people that are skilled singers, but only one is successful in worship, like Celine Dion or Michael Jackson. But there's many other people that can sing like Mariah Carey or sing like these different artists, but they might not look a certain way, or they might not be marketable because of this or that. So it's not all about how much effort you put in. It's not about your talents even. It's about your karma. And if your karma states that you're going to be successful in this lifetime, even if you have no talents, you'll be successful and make money. All of these things are predestined. As long as you're not on a transcendental platform or chanting Hare Krishna or trying to remove your karmas, you are constantly being pulled this way and that way by your previous karmas that come with you into the material world as part of your subtle body. And they create how you look, how you feel, the people that you come in contact with, how people react to you. All of these things are karmically based. But we are fruitive workers, which means that we always think that we can work and get fruits, but those fruits are not ours to take. Karma gives them and takes them away, and our actions actually don't have much to do with how much we enjoy or how much we suffer. So this is the illusion, is that the material body is able to work and get fruits in the material realm. So we're working with the fruit of being, this body, being situated in the fixed conception of the real self. So we have to take people that are fruitive workers, fruitive beings, and situate them in the fixed conception of the real self. Remove the idea that they're the body, that they're the mind, that they're experiencing awareness or becoming aware of things, or all of these ways that we try to associate with spiritualism, and pull all that away and say, you are the jiva, you are situated in the heart, you're this size, you are able to associate with the Paramatma, and the Paramatma is detecting and understanding your desires and fulfilling them, but also your karmas are there causing different roadblocks or opening up different things. So the whole fixed conception of the real self means that eventually you understand who you are, what the Paramatma is, and starting to get away from fruitive work. And you'll see some of the early chapters are called Karma Yoga, where you're learning to get into this whole scope of what karma is, how it works, what it means to be a fruitive worker, and also how Krishna consciousness helps you to augment and change your karma as well. So chapter 2 and text 2 here, it says, the Supreme Person, Bhagavan, said, my dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? This is a really funny statement. It says the Supreme Person, we're calling So Krishna is the Supreme Person. Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in Bhagavad Gita, you'll hear many times Krishna, or you'll hear Bhagavan as another means of addressing Krishna. And it says, "My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you?" So he's asking you, and this is almost kind of almost like a derogatory statement, because if you're thinking about Arjun and his position as a Kshatriya, also, the best friend of Krishna, and Krishna's looking and saying, how have these impurities come upon you? Like, it's almost laughable. Like, how are you even acting like this? And then he's calling them impurities. So we're discussing killing his family and his friends and his elders who have trained him and brought him up and given him the skills that he has. And Krishna is here nonchalantly saying, how have these impurities that, like, how I've asked you to kill your family members, how have you not just wanted to do that with no hesitation? And he's calling these impurities even. So this is someone just picking this book up and reading this and understanding that Krishna is asking him to kill a lot of people, and then reducing it down to a statement of, impurities. It's very disconcerting for a materialist, and especially in the material world where we take death and killing other people and taking their material bodies very seriously. However, we don't take it seriously when we are taking animals' bodies and using them for our own needs. So that's also a very interesting concept, how we find it heinous to kill another person, but not heinous to kill another animal. So why is that? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. So considering your family members and these people I'm asking you to kill as being anything less than a jiva, a soul that is forever and always eternally existing and is able to take on different bodies, whether it be in the spiritual or material realm, why are we concerning ourselves with this? And this type of thought is not befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. So if you really understand and are self-realized and in the fixed conception of the real self, then these types of thoughts are not befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. What are the progressive values of life? I am not this body, I am spirit soul. That's the most progressive value of life, and where all spiritual life starts and comes from. So these impurities, they do not lead to higher planets, but to infamy. So you're not going to get pious karmic credits for doing this. You're not going to, because he's a Kshatriya, so it's completely irreligious of him not to fight in this particular case. And in fact, they are in the wrong, because a lot of the people there had taken money and taken shelter of someone that they hadn't, or shouldn't have, sorry. And due to that, they then corrupted themselves to the point where it also would be fine for a Kshatriya in that position, like Arjun, to kill those people. Even though they are very high standing, they still chose the wrong path in this particular case. So these types of hesitations Arjun's experiencing, they do not lead to higher planets, but to infamy. So he will lose everything, as we explained before. He will become infamous as someone that was weak and bewildered at the time and crying and unable to perform his task because of his inability to understand that, what progressive values of life should be applied in this particular case. How am I supposed to think through this and understand the situation? The purport says Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical, so we've already explained that. In the Bhagavad Gita, you'll see Krishna, Supreme Personality, and Bhagavan all used interchangeably. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Yes. Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. So I was just speaking with someone yesterday, and they were asking about the Krishna path, What is the Krishna path? What is this path? And I explained to them, we as materialists, we place ourselves in a very narrow vantage point where we then say, this is this path, this is that. We separate things, we isolate things. I like this, I dislike that. This is Christian, that is Muslim. This person preached Buddhism, but was Buddha a Buddhist? Was Jesus a Christian? They were just people giving knowledge, and we have then taken that and labeled it as something, have made it a religion for people to follow, have said that it is disconnected from this religion, it's disconnected from Buddhism, it's disconnected from the Krishna path. So this is what we do as materialists. We become adhered to something, and we like to put other people down or put them up or put ourselves up or even put ourselves down, but we always like to isolate and create things that are packaged up and different from another thing. We never see that things are connected. There's no connectedness when you are very materialistic, because you're always I-driven. When you're always looking at yourself, it's very difficult to see how you are connected to everything else around you when you're trying to exploit all of the things around you. And it's the same with all of the spiritual paths. They are all connected. They're all rungs on a ladder. They're all coming down from one particular source, but they're for different people of different realizations, different inclinations, different realizations, and different levels of realization that they want to attain. And because Krishna is all opulent, he is then able to provide all of those paths to different people. And each path, if you're able to remove yourself from the idea that it is the only way, then you're able to move up towards newer paths, open your understanding and horizons a little bit. So Krishna consciousness, Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. So you won't find anything in other religions that holds any spiritual merit that is different per se from what you'll find in the Vedanta, that you'll find in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, or in any of the other, Vedic literatures that aren't necessarily God conscious, but more Karmakanda based. There's so much information that everything that was preached by these other people, you will find there. So this is the ultimate realization, the ultimate scope of knowledge, and then from Bhagavan realization, from the Krishna path or whatever, you're able to see everything else radiate down through, and you're not worried about my path, their path. You see that everyone is on the same path, that they're all connected. And you no longer look down upon people as if they're part of a different sect, they're part of a different religion. It's completely non-sectarian, and we don't see divisions in anything. Everyone is a jiva soul. All living creatures and beings are part and parcels of Krishna. There is no divisiveness here. Absolute truth is realized. So absolute truth, when you're moving away from materialistic thinking, you're starting to associate more with the concept that I am not this body, then what are you going to ultimately realize? Well, there are different absolute truths that you can come to. The three phases of understanding are Brahman, or the impersonal, all-pervasive spirit. So when I was very young, like 10 or 11 years old, I, was taken to one of these Hindu kind of saints, Sant Thakar Singh, and they are impersonalists, but they're also very God conscious, and 95% of their information is identical to the Krishna path, except their ultimate absolute truth that they provide is impersonal. And they teach you to meditate on the Brahman effulgence, but they also have the same regulative principles that we do and ask you not to be, eating meat and be a vegetarian and these different things. So So all of that's the same. I came to this at a young age and was, experiencing the Brahman and seeing light and had a mantra that I was reciting and different things like that. But it's not something that is all that fun. It's, Brahman is something that is provided to people when they're not ready to accept God as being a person. And you're also not willing to accept that you, even if you realize that you're part and parcel of God, are not God because you don't have the full potencies. So a lot of people have, still material hang-ups where they want to believe that they are God. They want to believe that they can get mystic powers and siddhis, which they can. They want to get rid of their body, get rid of the mind, get rid of their senses, and remove themselves entirely from the material world and try to become inactive, ultimately. What they don't understand is that becomes very boring for the jiva, which is themselves ultimately. And Krishna says, if a child asks after they're born to get reabsorbed back into the mother, a material mother cannot do that. Like, the child has come out, but you cannot reabsorb the child back in as a part and parcel of a material woman's body. However, in Krishna consciousness, Krishna does allow this, so you are able to merge into what's called the Brahma Jyoti, which is the effulgence of Krishna. So if you have the sun, you have sun as the Krishna, and you have the light rays and the effulgence coming from Krishna. This is the Brahma Jyoti. So you can merge into that just as a water droplet will merge back into an ocean, or, in this particular case, no different than a child merging back into his body, as we are parts and parcels of his total energies. So he allows that. It does happen, and many people worship this Brahman effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti. The thing is, there's no personal connections here. You lose your identity even as a jiva at that point. You still exist, but you're not aware. You don't have consciousness. You don't have a body to do anything with. You're not spiritually oriented. You're not in the spiritual realm experiencing transcendental activities with Krishna or other entities there. You're not able to do kirtan and sing and cook prasadam and all these different. So eventually the jiva becomes disgruntled in the Brahma Jyoti and will fall from there and come back to a material sphere to take up their practice again and try to learn the next realization. So I'll leave it here. I'll try to keep the classes at half an hour rather than an hour. And we'll explain the next levels, Paramatma, Bhagavan realization, and continue on with the purport here. Okay, Hare Krishna.